Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Ezoic Spotlight. Today I'm going to be interviewing Morten Storgaard. Morten has been an SEO consultant for over a decade, and he first started building websites 12 years ago. Today he's sharing a ton of information on strategies for revenue, traffic, and content. So stay tuned. My first question is, when did your journey begin building niche websites? So just how long have you been doing this? When did you start?
Yeah, I started around 12 years ago. At the time I was studying at the university. So my first site was an e-commerce site that I built together with an investor. So we had sort of a team of 10 people around us, and it was a very big deal for me. So after 3 years, I got out of that because there was some huge competitors driving the prices down. And so I learned a ton, and I continued for around a decade as an SEO consultant. So meanwhile I did that, I built up my own portfolio of sites. So that's sort of how I got into it.
Since you've been doing this for so long, what is the process that you follow to finding a profitable niche and building traffic to that website?
Yeah, so I refined this process over and over again over the years, and I tend these days to go with evergreen content, content with a long lifespan, so I don't have to refresh it too much. My first website was a tech blog, so that obviously was not always evergreen content. So I figured, well, if I could just let it sit there and earn me money passively, that'd be awesome, because that would enable me to go and work on another website. So that's definitely the first thing I look for, is like, what's the potential for evergreen content? And then I try to look for a flat or an upgoing trend on Google Trends, just to make sure that I'm going into something that's still a big deal, in 3, 5, 7, 8 years, because I want to build my websites like long term. So
finding a good domain and a good topic, you have some strategies for that others might not know of. So what are those?
So the first thing I do is that I use some of the best tools that I've found. I've tried like a ton of tools. So I really like a tool that's called bustaname.com.
Okay.
So what it does for you is it lets you combine two lists of words. So let's say you have this list of words that you want to include in your domain, and maybe you have this main word that you also want in your domain. Then it will explore all the available opportunities there. So that's a pretty cool tool. The other tool is called leandomainsearch.com. And in that tool, you give it a seed word, and then it will try to combine it with thousands of popular words from the English vocabulary and just show you everything that's available. So that's a pretty cool tool as well. And then I just really try to go with a really, really broad domain name, because that enables me to continue growing the site, so I don't get stuck in a tiny corner of a niche. But so let's say, for example, I wanted to do a site about snowboarding. I would never call that one snowboard reviews. I would go for something like mountain freak, something like that.
Yeah.
That would enable me to go into skiing and hiking and maybe paragliding or whatever. So I can continue building as the site evolves and gets bigger.
Have you been using that strategy for all of the sites you built, or did you kind of adapt that later on?
The sites I've been starting within the last year. I started 3 or 4 sites within the last year. I sort of shifted my strategy when I joined you guys, when I found out about Ezoic and programmatic ads. That was, I think, 15 months ago.
Oh, wow.
So when I switched on ads for the first time, it just doubled my revenue, because a lot of my content wasn't really monetized that well.
Uh-huh.
So after figuring out that I could do that and just get tons of volume, I totally revisited my strategy. And that was also when I started to go into bigger and bigger, broader domains.
Kind of hopping in, these are some of the questions that I've taken from the Ezoic community. We got a ton of great questions, and I kind of weeded through and picked out the best ones. How much time and money have you invested into each website that you've built?
I would say all across the board. Some of my websites I would write every article myself. So I have an article that I also share on my YouTube channel. It's called animalhow.com if people want to check it out. I wrote 100 articles myself for that website, because it's a passion project. I mean, I like animals. It's pets, but it's also like animals about giraffes and elephants. And so I spent around 2 months of my own time working full time on that site.
Oh, wow.
Batching out first 50 articles, let it sit there for 3 months, and then I did another batch of 50 articles. So that was around 2 months full time. And I didn't hire writers or anything for that site. It was just built with a free WordPress theme, basically just investing my own time. And another site I've been building out right now, my latest site, really working on, I started last summer. And so for this website, I have been buying content for around $8,000. So that's at the other end of the spectrum. That's my own team of writers that I have now. I have quite a lot of writers. So I don't really write anymore myself.
Okay, so when did you stop? So when did you transition from writing all your own content to outsourcing content?
Yeah, around the time that I found you guys. Because it just made so much sense to take some of that money and invest it into my own business.
Sorry, would you say it got to a point when you had like too many websites that you wanted to start outsourcing writers?
Yeah, I recently sold quite a lot of websites, and now I'm shaving my portfolio quite a lot, and I'm also starting new websites because I got this new strategy, a mix of informational content with premium ads and then the affiliate stuff. So since I wanted to follow that strategy much more, I started new websites and tried to get rid of some of the old ones. Also because they were built on old SEO tactics.
Do you use any specific platforms to outsource your freelance writers? Anything that you recommend?
I've tried a lot. I have worked with Upwork for a long time, and I have nothing against them. But I mean, when you're trying to scale a team on Upwork, I found that very tedious because there's so many hoops and loops. You need to jump with feedback, and there's just so much. It takes up a lot of time. I only work with my team directly, so they work with me, not on Upwork, but directly with me, and then they just invoice me every month because it's so much easier for me.
Yeah. You just kind of touched on this a little bit, but do you earn revenue from display ads only or affiliate revenue also? And then what revenue stream do you prefer or do you find most more profitable?
Yeah, I really love to have a mix of those two because I think that's so awesome. So I sort of, when I plan out a site, I know that I'm going to try to rank for these huge topics that I know that I can monetize well with affiliate. And then I just build a ton of surrounding content around it, with answering questions and just informational type content that help me rank those pages that are sort of the pillar articles. And then I just, put display ads and ads on everything. And then also because you never know what's going to rank anyway, right? So knowing that whatever ranks, you can always monetize with ads. It makes it much more worth it to have a ton of articles up there.
So my next question is, do you ever, I guess this kind of applies to maybe back when you did write your own content, or maybe direction that you give to your freelance writers now, do you ever rewrite articles that aren't getting good traffic or performing well?
Well, I'd say over the last year, I've just been doubling down on content like a couple of times, and I'm doing that right now actually also. So I haven't really taken the time to sort of pull the brakes on it and just see what's not working so far. I have listed sort of one keyword or one phrase for every article that I monitor the rankings for. If I don't rank for that keyword or that phrase, I will go back and look at that article within 6 to 8 months. So let's say it's a brand new website. I will have to wait like 8 months to know if I actually rank for it. And if it's an established site like my bigger sites, I will check this ranking after 6 months to see if I'm ranking for it. The main phrase that I should definitely rank for. So if it's not working, it's not ranking, I'm totally going to go back and have a writer rewrite it, or maybe give it another angle, maybe loosen up the title, go for something more long tail that's not as competitive.
Just optimize it in some other way. So my next question is, what is the best advice that you would give before publishing a brand new blog post? What should you always be checking before clicking the publish button?
Yeah, so my editor will do that, and the guidelines I give her, sort of a checklist, is first to go over the formatting, to make sure there's not like a wall of text anywhere. I want to break it up nicely for two reasons: to make it more readable and also to allow for ads. There needs to be breaks where you can insert those ads. And so that's the first thing. And the second thing is to make sure that if there's any possibility to go for this Google snippet, to steal that 0 position in Google, I wanted to totally go for it. And I always have my editor or myself get nerdy on that part, this little 2, 3, 4 line sentence to make sure we nail that as good as possible, because that can totally make or break an article, in my opinion, if we manage to get that number 0 position. So that's what I would say are my two main.
So this group of freelance authors who work directly with you, how did you find them to be kind of like your direct team? Is there anything that you use to kind of outsource them, or did you use like connections, or maybe you already knew some of them?
Yeah, many different ways, but I would say the place that I go to mostly is the website called ProBlogger. So it's more like a job board, and I like that because they get to apply directly to me. I don't have to use this platform for working with them like I did on Upwork. And Upwork is not too fond of you taking them outside the platform.
Yes.
So on ProBlogger, it's more just like a job board, and I really like that. You just pay to put a job ad up there, and then people will apply to you directly. So that's how I'm onboarding new writers right now.
What plugins are you using to give the best user experience right now?
Yeah, I recently switched to use a new theme that's called Astra. And I'm using that because it's extremely fast, and it's just very, very light. And then I'm using that in conjunction with Elementor Pro, which is the page builder. So if people haven't heard about Elementor, they should definitely check it out. It's totally next generation. So you can do anything without knowing any line of code. I really love that. I've tried other page builders, but they seem to sort of make my website clunky when it comes to site speed. So I managed a couple of times now to take Astra, that theme, together with Elementor Pro, and those two things together will have like a built-in table of content, pop-ups. So there's just a lot of functionality that's built into these two things. And then I turn your site speed on, the Ezoic site speed. And I recently took a website to 99 on desktop and 98 on mobile.
Awesome.
So that's just awesome. Yeah, I love that.
Awesome.
Yeah, cool. So that's my setup right now.
Have you used any plugins in the past that you had a bad experience with?
Yeah, okay. One I did use was a security plugin. It was called iThemes. And it would just constantly lock me or my writers out of it. Also because I have writers across many states and in the UK, and I even have a writer in South Africa. So whenever there's a weird pattern, that's a totally weird pattern, having people logging into a site from all over the world. So that was just a hassle. So I quit that one, and now I'm using WordFence. It seems lighter and easier to work with. So I have some custom code and stuff on my site. So I think I sleep a little better when I have work.
Okay, so my next question, this kind of pertains to why I'm actually coming to you from my home office instead of the Ezoic office. So how is coronavirus or COVID-19 affecting your websites at the moment, or just kind of your business, your day-to-day?
Yeah, so I would say on the day-to-day operations of my business, it's not affecting me sort of at all, because you see, this is where I work, this is my home, this is but when I look at the traffic side of things and also the ad revenue and all that good stuff, so the traffic has been going down for some of my sites, but I also noticed today, so two of my websites actually went up a little bit. So one of those websites is about a hobby that you can do yourself. I figured maybe people, they have more time to do this right now. So it makes a total lot of sense that it would go up. But I would say generally my websites have been, I think my overall traffic has been dipping around 15%.
Okay.
Normally I'll be around 500,000 page views per month, but maybe I think that took a pretty good dip. Yeah.
Has this pandemic pushed you to maybe think about doing anything differently with your day-to-day, or producing any kind of different content or more content?
I've been giving a lot of thought sort of to how I can diversify, risk, and also just diversify my portfolio of sites. So that's definitely why I'm building 5 large sites right now. So these are all sites that I think I can over time take to 1 million page views. So it's like really, really huge niches.
Amazing.
So that's one thing. And the other thing is that I've been going more into YouTube. So as you know, I'm starting my own YouTube channel these days. And so that's also sort of to diversify, if something goes wrong, then at least I have an extra leg to stand on.
In short, what techniques are you using to make your keywords rank? And this is something I saw a lot about. People want to know kind of how you do your keyword research. So what's kind of your strategies for that? Yeah,
it's a very good question. I think it's probably the thing that I most often see people go wrong with when they're not succeeding. So either they stop writing or they get this wrong, this part wrong. So the way I do this today is that I've been shifting away from using keyword tools too much, because I found that they rely too much on one keyword or one phrase. And these days I find that Google is so good at ranking you for a ton of related searches. So a good example is an article that I would probably never write if I just looked at that search volume, because it would maybe say like 50 searches per month. But because it was an article I did about sewing jokes. It's a website about crafts and stuff. So sewing and quilting and all this stuff, and then jokes and funny things that people would say and one-liners and stuff. So when I looked at the data inside the tools, it didn't really make sense. But I found this in the people also ask box. And I also found it in the related searches at the bottom of Google when you type in anything, especially if you type in questions, you'll see these all the time. Related questions people also ask, and also with the Google auto suggest. So that's where I find my topics. And then I also use these to build out the subheadings and the H2 and the H3s and so on. And that works really well for me. And also if I see forums and if I see people discussing it on Quora, maybe on Reddit, I know that this is definitely something people at least care about to some extent.
Have you taught your freelance writers, your team of writers, anything about keyword and topic research, or do you do that still yourself?
That's actually the thing I do myself. I think it's to me, that's the secret sauce. And that's also what, as I said before, that's the thing I see people do wrong. So I think this is where you make or break your website. That's what distinguishes it from being awesome or just being, all right. The more work I put into this before I deliver the topic or the outline to the writer, the more traffic it totally ends up getting, because I outsourced more than 1,000 articles over the last 1.5 years, I think. And so doing it so many times and seeing what actually ranks and what never ranks, you get a sense for that. And that's what I wanted to use. I think that's very, very hard to teach somebody else, but eventually I probably have to. It's also something I really enjoy, I think. That's a nerdy side of things too.
So would you say, you mentioned that kind of the number one thing that publishers do wrong is doing the keyword research wrong. Do you think it's because they're looking too hard into it and trying to use these other keyword tools when they should just be kind of listening to the questions that people have online?
People just go for what anybody else is writing. They see this cool site and they also want to write about this. Maybe they think I can write this piece better, where they should actually be writing something that nobody has written before. Just start like really, really with the very, very low hanging fruit. That's what I always do. And then eventually people will come to your website and find it. So when I look at websites and try to coach people on this, sometimes they will write 10 really, really nice articles. They would never stand a chance of ranking for it because it's just way too competitive. A huge site wrote about it. So
are you doing any kind of link building these days? And this person says, it seems that link building is not as important to SEO these days. And what is your take on this? I have controversy on this as well, so I'm interested to see what you have to say.
Yeah, I actually did a video on my YouTube channel where I'm ranking a brand new website from scratch without any link building. Or I should say, I did build 2 links. I just wanted Google, to find it. But that was just from my own sites where it made total sense. It was an article about something about how to travel with animals, and then I already had an article about that on another site from an RV perspective. So that was the only 2 links I put on this domain, and I'm showing how it actually got like 50,000 page views within 8 to 9 months. So that just showed me that I can totally do this without backlinks, and backlinks is just something that can take a lot of time. I think it's so time consuming, and I would just want to focus on the content, and I feel like today you can totally do that if you nail that keyword research, and if you find cracks, teeny tiny topics you can start writing about that nobody else has written. So that definitely takes practice, but if you can nail that, I think that's an easier path to success.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, that is all of my questions for you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Ezoic Spotlight with Morten Storgaard. I hope you enjoyed this interview. You can subscribe to Morten's YouTube channel. It's Authority Site Geek. You can also visit his website at authoritysitegeek.com. Stay tuned for the next episode. Thanks, guys.